Hello everyone, welcome back to the GeekWave. As always, I'm your host, Taryn Barker, and we have a really fun episode to talk about. As always, guys, this is the low-budget show. It's the show so low it has no budget. And today we are talking about a topic that is so exciting and something that's really near and dear to my heart. We're talking Jim Henson, and we're talking about his best creations. I love this guy. I've always been fascinated by the idea of puppetry and that kind of just building of a career and a repertoire and what that means and how that can tell a story. And Jim Henson is just one of those guys that is amazing and perfect, and everybody loves him and everyone respects him. So I figured we'd take this time to talk about him because the release of Muppets Now is going to be coming to Disney Plus at the end of this week, and I'm very excited to see what that's going to be. A couple of housewarming things to jump into before we get into our news topics today. My reviews of Stargirl Season 1 will be coming to an end in the next couple of weeks because the show is coming to an end in the next couple of weeks. We've got 2 episodes left. So I'm going to be doing weekly reviews of the Muppets Now show whenever that starts. I think they're saying it's going to be weekly if I'm not mistaken, so I'm very excited to see what that is. But if it turns out that is not weekly and the show just dumps, we'll do a long video talking about all those episodes. And then we'll probably jump into Archer Season 11. We'll talk more about Archer here in a bit, so I'm very excited to see what that's going to look like in the future. I'm trying to do every time I talk about a show, I jump into the next one right away, so I do weekly reviews of a show. At least that's how I want to keep doing about this, so we'll see what happens there. But we got some news to talk about this week. We got actually, I think, the most news we've had ever. We got a few pieces here. A lot of it's just pretty basic stuff, but we're going to jump into it. And we are going to start with talking about Tom King, a guy who has pretty much taken the comic book industry by storm, at least DC Comics for that matter. And he is going to be writing a Rorschach comic book for the Black Label. I don't want this. But if anyone's going to do it, I'm glad it's Tom King. He's definitely got an eye for a story like this. He seems right up the alley of someone who'd be wanting to tell a Rorschach story. I guess it takes 35 years after the events of Watchmen, and they haven't confirmed who the Rorschach is going to be. I don't think it's going to be the guy from Doomsday Clock. I don't know if it's going to be our main one from the Watchmen series, but this seems too little too late. You know, strike while the iron's hot. Does anybody want more Watchmen content? I think we're kind of burned out. But then again, the series got nominated for 15 Emmys or something, so I don't know. And I do want to bring this up briefly. I didn't really want to get into this, but an incident happened, so I just thought we could talk about it here. Tom King. He accused the artist Jay Lee of being connected to Comicsgate, and he was wrongfully accused of that, and I really hate that Tom King did that. It seems very blatantly rude and appalling that he was just accused that without actually having any, details or understanding of what it is. And Jay has a right to be mad about it. Like, this is his livelihood that's on the line just because Tom wasn't sure of a situation. He almost ruined a man's career. I want to say fuck Comicsgate and anybody associated with it. Even if you're trying to do it for the right reasons, you're not, and you're associating yourself with something that's tainted and bad. There's nothing good about Comicsgate. Comic books were built on diversity from the outsider, and it should be inclusive for everyone. You shouldn't be trying to push your hate or your agenda on anybody else from either side of the political spectrum. So don't push any of your bullshit. Comics are all inclusive. And Comicsgate is a terrible organization, a terrible group, and nothing about it is worth talking about. I had to bring it up just because it's kind of connected to the Rorschach thing, because Jay Lee's doing a variant cover. So we'll move past that, and we'll go quickly into Tenet is... It's its own thing. Tenet is looking like it is going to be coming out in September domestically for the US, but I think everywhere else we are going to be getting it a week early, which is me. I don't know why Canada counts as a week is like international. That always pisses me off because I never really see the States as international because you don't have to go overseas or anything. You just go down. I don't know. Look, I'll believe it when I see it that this movie's actually going to come out. Like, I don't think it is. I don't think it's going to be coming out. We'll have to wait and see what happens there, but just drop it on Fortnite or whatever Christopher Nolan likes doing there. I mean, he released so many movies on Fortnite. It's weird, and I think you're going to make more money if you bring it to streaming or renting on demand, but I understand we want movies to be in theaters, and it's a good idea to keep them going that way, but the way things are, it sucks. And pushing it out before it deserves to be out or should be out in terms of the public safety is even worse. So I don't know what's going on there. I guess right now we're looking at a September release for the US, but a week earlier for everyone else. And then some more news here. Perry Mason is renewed for a second season at HBO. I'm really liking the first season, and we're definitely going to be doing a review of it when that season's done. And I definitely think the second season will be just as good as that season. I really hope they just kind of go away from the church angle and get rid of that stuff, because not that it's bad, I just think we don't really need to see that for a second season. There's so much more interesting stuff in Los Angeles we can talk about and explore. I kind of hope we go that route, because there's some really good stuff there that I'm very excited to see. Perry Mason's a really good show. It's kind of mixed in a lot of reviews' eyes, but I think it's pretty fun. And another thing here, Paper Girls is getting a series in development at Amazon. That's awesome. I'm really excited about that. Take as many of these properties away from Netflix as you can, because Netflix doesn't do anything that good with all these properties, except for Umbrella Academy and The Witcher. Now, I know nothing about this comic book at all. I just know the title, so I'm very excited to see what that could be, and I think it's going to be really fun. Paper Girls, it sounds very cute and interesting. I know the art style is it's very comic booky and very cartoonish, so I think a lot of people will like it. I, for one, am very excited to see what that could be, especially because this isn't one that Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg are working on, so it's going to be a different kind of team working for an Amazon doing something there. Very cool stuff. I'm very excited by that. And some more news. We got a lot of news to talk about this week. Archer Season 11 gets a trailer. Wow, this was hilarious. I've kind of fallen off on the past few seasons of Archer. I mean, I watched the detective one. I did a review. It's like one of my highest viewed videos on this channel. Then there's the Fantasy Island one, which was okay. And I dropped off in Archer 1999 or 2099. I can't remember what it was. I can't keep, it was funny for the most part, but it's like I got so much other TV I'd rather watch, so I just couldn't keep up with it. But he's out of the coma now, and the world has changed for the better. There's no room in this world for the old Archer with his weird ways, his drinking habits, his terrible jokes. What a great angle, a very meta narrative angle where it's like, this was funny back in a time when we could use ISIS as the name of our base, when we could say women are slutty and that kind of stuff. But in today's climate, Archer doesn't work. So if this is about Archer's going to try to be more friendly, I think that's going to be hilarious. That's a really cool angle I don't think a lot of people would be expecting. So I'm very intrigued by what that's going to be. The trailer was really funny too. I loved it. And it's just going to be really fun. Glad to see Archer coming back. It's a show I like. And like I said at the top of the show, we are probably going to be doing a weekly review of the show once that comes out. Continuing on with our news. Like I said, we got a lot. DC has announced their next big comic book event, and it's going to be called Endless Winter. And you know what? I think it sounds pretty cool. It's a great title. I love that a lot. And I'm expecting that we're going to see a lot of these ice-themed characters take center stage. Your Icicle, because he's on the CW right now. Maybe you'll see Mr. Freeze. I am, of course, a fan of Captain Cold. I'd love to see that take precedent there. And I guess the rumor has it that an old character from, I think, the 90s is going to be taking center stage here too, named Endless Winter. That could be really fun. Ultra Humanite was also brought up, and he's currently in that, was it Batman Superman book where he just kind of blew up the atomic skull. I wonder how that's going to play into all this, if we're going to do an angle with that. I'm very curious. Really cool stuff. I do really like what DC is doing with their events. As much as death metal, I think it's going to be lackluster. I'm curious to see what the next thing is going to be, and it's going to be really fun. So, Endless Winter, it sounds really cool. The poster they released looked really nice, and I'm very excited to see what this is going to be. Some more news, just a couple of quick things to talk about that they weren't in my notes, but I'm just going to put them in here because I'd rather not talk about them next week. Witcher prequel coming to Netflix, live action, 6 parts. That sounds cool. I'm on board for that. Maybe we get a season 2 of The Witcher first before we start doing all these spin-offs. Someone's thinking way too Game of Thrones, and that backfired on Game of Thrones really fast. Watch my GeekWave on Game of Thrones. And I guess Haley Steinfeld is kind of officially cast as Kate Bishop. I'll believe it when I see it. I've been talking about that for years. She's perfect for it, especially in today's climate. She'd be a perfect fit for the character of Kate Bishop. So, yeah, do that. That's a great idea. It would work perfectly for her, and I'd be very excited to see it. But it's in the vein of this Witcher prequel. Like, I'd like to maybe just take a moment to let some more things happen before we jump onto these stuff. And I know it's not an official announcement yet because Marvel hasn't officially said it, but Illuminati is, I don't know, I guess they're reputable. I have a cousin who always sends me all this information, and he's very adamant on that it's all confirmed, and it's just not yet. So we'll have to wait and see. But that's our news. We kind of breezed by this news pretty fast, but then again, it's not a lot of big talking points. I'm very excited for our main topic. So let's take a quick break, and we are going to jump into the best creations of Jim Henson. So, like I said, our main topic today is the best creations of Jim Henson, and I made a lot of notes for this episode. I think more than I made for any other one. And I want to start off with some of my thoughts on Jim Henson himself because I really love him. I really do. There are few people in this industry that I hold a sincere amount of respect for, and one of those guys is Jim Henson. You have to put him on that same list of the nicest guys ever, alongside people like Fred Rogers, Steve Irwin, Bob Ross, Stan Lee. Those guys are just so influential in their positivity and their authenticity of being these polite gentlemen and these respectful guys, and you got to put Jim Henson up there with them. He's earned that place. I find it very compelling in Jim, and it just shows a real sense of pride and power in his works, and that's something I respect the hell out of too, because this could easily be a profession, and I don't want to criticize the idea of using puppets, but it's easily a profession that could be seen as very childish and just, I guess childish is like the main word you could use there, because it's only for kids. Only kids can respond to puppets, but Jim Henson was like instrumental in making puppets kind of cool for everyone. He's the one that made them this impactful thing that become a cultural phenomenon. Some of his creations have went on to be these long-lasting things that have worked for both children's and adults, and I think that's very important. It's another one of those forms of storytelling. It's like using stop motion or claymation. Not everyone is going to like it, but you can tell a different kind of story in that genre that can only work in that genre, and it's very important that way. And it's all about the meaning behind it. You know, I love that a lot. And the guy he's influenced so much. And we'll get into it more when we talk about certain shows he's worked on, about how I think they've influenced a lot of people going forward. But there's just so much that he's done, just I guess in terms of just like creating too, like making these creatures and these unique experiences and appearances on film and on television that you're just like, there's really nothing else like it. There's nothing like seeing a genuine creation of Jim Henson. He's just made his own kind of works, and it's beautiful to see that. And I really think that what he was trying to do, maybe in the beginning of his career, and one of the most important parts for him, I think, was educating young minds and helping children learn things that are important. And you know what? Not all of his puppets are for kids. There's a lot of his earlier stuff that is definitely geared towards youth and helping them understand cultural events, cultural milestones, things in the world that maybe you don't get taught in school, but just helping you understand things like that. And as he got older and as he kind of just figured out, I want to get more into movies, things got a little dark and a little macabre. And they were still really cool. Everything this guy does is cool. I'm telling you guys, this is... I'm trying to figure out like a modern creator, someone who's in the industry today that I could compare Jim Henson to, and there really isn't anybody out there I think that's like him. I don't know actually. I'm trying to think. There isn't really anybody who's had that integrity like him. Maybe a Jon Favreau could be someone close like that, or a Dave Filoni could have that feeling, but there really isn't anybody like it. And I love this guy. I really do love him. I love him for everything he's done. Everything he has made has had an impact on me in some way. And I still think about his work a lot, especially when we're in this era where people my age And I think it's my age in particular, we are from an era that didn't have those puppetry in the center stage. We had people in mascot costumes, the Teletubbies and Barney, and of course Sesame Street was always there, but it never, like, I guess, had that impact that it does now and then. I don't know. But I love all his work. It's impacted me in so many ways. So I wanted to do something a little extra here just to get you guys maybe some incentive to get more into the pageantry of what he does in the puppetry. And I'm going to put a link to the Jim Henson Foundation in the description below. So if you guys want to just donate to what the charity is to help people understand what Jim Henson was trying to do for all these years and the way the puppets work and helping the youth and the children, you can definitely donate to them. They are nonprofits, so if you want to pay that, it definitely is something I think a lot of people should do, and just help support this genre, because it's really important that a lot of people work on this stuff. And yes, we are doing the best creations of Jim Henson, and I'm calling them Jim Henson creations, even though countless people are involved in making all these projects. So I wanted to say to everyone involved, thank you for making these possible, and to Jim Henson, thank you for showing us the genius that is inside your brain. You are a cultural phenomenon. You have proven that you are a nice man and have influenced a lot of people, and I respect the hell out of you. You are just somebody that I just respect and I love. So Jim Henson and everyone who's worked with him, you guys know this guy better than most, and you understand what he does. So let's get into some of his best creations. We are going to start with the stuff on television, then we will jump into the movies, and it'll just be kind of fun. There's not a lot we're going to talk about. I'm not talking about every single one of his creations, because there's countless, and then the stuff that his Creature Workshop has built after his passing. We're not really going to talk about that stuff too. I will shout out that his Creature Workshop did help design the 1990 Ninja Turtles for that movie. For the most part, those look pretty good. So we'll start with the stuff on television, which started airing in 1969. And yes, we're talking about Sesame Street. And honest to God, it is some of the best kids programming out there. It is just perfect. The show is made to be educational and help young minds flourish, which is exactly what it does. It teaches you your basic numbers, your basic letters, your basic animals, just everything that you need to do. But then it also does things that are cultural milestones, because you wouldn't, in today's climate, you wouldn't have the puppet that is autistic back when this first aired. And just that show alone, I know what's happening now isn't a part of what Jim Henson's working on, but just being able to, I guess, continue that legacy and going into modern stuff where it's like the world's changing and we're going to change with it. And when the culture changes, we have to do certain things with our characters so that it keeps up with the culture, and the youth of today understands certain things. And it's like that for all of his creations. This one, again, 1969, it's managed to be on the air for a long time, and with each passing year, it becomes more culturally relevant for kids, and that's important too. The kids are very important. The youth is important. The youth is so important, and we gotta put focus on them. That's why I love shows like this that allow kids to learn and breathe and just understand basic things. Elmo is a kid. Elmo is the audience on Sesame Street. And I know it's like he can talk to us, but Elmo is the kid. It makes perfect sense. I love it. I really do love it. And while it's culturally relevant, certain things that they're doing now, you can still watch this in any time and still get something out of it. Like, you can watch some of the older episodes. There's still something in there that your kid could learn from, or you as an adult could enjoy seeing. Like, it's timeless, and a lot of his work happens to be very timeless, which is something I enjoy. And you know what else? I always have to commemorate a guy who creates stuff like this, because it goes with the puppetry and everyone who's working the puppets and just the writers and the staff involved. Every one of these characters is unique, which is not something you can say about every kids show. Sometimes if it comes to a kids show, the characters all have to just say something so you learn a lesson. But every character on Sesame Street, every one of those puppets, they are all unique in their own way. And some of them are really amazing. I love Big Bird. I've always been a fan of Big Bird. I think just his character is so interesting and compelling, and there's something really cool about him. Bert and Ernie are just your gay best friends. I absolutely love them, whether or not they're gay or they're straight. Okay, that's a huge debate, I guess, among the Sesame Street people, and I think they kind of clarified that they're just friends, but look, They're hilarious. They're very dry-witted and sarcastic. They play off each other fantastically. They teach kids some great stuff. Like Rubber Ducky, you are the one who makes bath time fun. But I think one of the best creations on Sesame Street, and I would say one of the most important characters in teaching kids certain things, Oscar the Grouch. I am so glad Oscar exists because it's important for young people to understand you're not going to be happy all the time. As you grow up, life becomes frustrating and nobody is 100% happy or sincere or enjoying themselves all the time. No one is. If you are, you're lying to yourself because no one can be that happy all the time. And having someone who is grouchy and cranky be a present figure on Sesame Street, but they're still likable and they still like the people around them, I think that makes it better. And it teaches kids you're allowed to have different emotions. You know, you're not just going to constantly be this happy guy. You're not going to constantly be Elmo who's experiencing joy and all these things around him. Sometimes you're going to be Oscar. You're going to want to stay in your home. You're not going to want to talk to anybody. And you're going to be allowed to feel that too. It's very relevant, and I like it a lot. And I don't really have a specific favorite moment on Sesame Street. Like, I have not seen all of it. Because, come on, I grow up. I move on. You know, I don't like all of it. My doorbell just rang, and I think that means my new webcam is in. That doesn't matter. We'll get to that at a different time. But some of those classic Bert and Ernie skits are still really fun and hilarious. All right, let's move on to the next television show that this guy's worked on. And this is the reason I wanted to do this. It's the Muppets. And I got a huge essay here. I think I might just read it out to you, and then when I figure something I like, we'll just stop and make points. So yeah, this is the reason I wanted to do a Jim Henson episode of this show. I love the Muppets. I have, and I always will love the Muppets. They are the next step in comedy from Sesame Street. They maintain the fun, bubbly characters, but at a level of nuance and narrative awareness that is brilliant in its structure. And it's both for adults and children. Sesame Street is aimed for kids. The Muppets, it's more adult content. They talk about love and romance and grief and struggle. Just look at the relationship between Miss Piggy and Kermit. Look at Gonzo and Camilla. Look at the way Fozzie's always trying to get a laugh. Look at the way that Rolf the dog is sometimes just quiet and somber towards himself. Or, everyone who's trying to do these different emotions. It works really well. You're giving these characters real emotion. They're not just trying to teach kids anything. They feel like real people, and they're puppets. And whilst doing all that great stuff, it manages to balance the slapstick, the musical numbers, and the off-the-wall humor, the explosions, the car crashes, just everything about it. It's really funny. Every episode feels like these are living, breathing people. And the absurd nature allows the flow to feel organic as opposed to scripted. Because, look, the Muppet Show itself, the original Muppet Show, it's about them making a show. It's in that sense, too, it's meta as hell. Because they're making a show while they're on a show. That's amazing, right? Come on, that's really cool. And that kind of flow always works well for the Muppets. I am a supporter of the 2015 Muppet Show. I think I'm the only guy that watched it. But that works for the Muppets. They made it a little too adult and made some jokes kind of weird. But overall, it's a really fun show. And you know what? I 100% believe so much of modern writing and comedy has been influenced by this show. Even if you don't like the Muppets or puppetry, the comedy still works. Every joke still works. The Kermit and Miss Piggy relationship, the Fozzie structure, Sam the Eagle, Sweetums, Dr. Van Honeydew, Beaker, Animal, Dr. Teeth and the Electric Band. All of these people, they all work, even if they're not Muppets. And that's the best part about the Muppets to me. They don't have to be puppets. You could do this exact same thing. Oh, we're making a variety vaudevillian style show and we're doing a behind the scenes filming of it. Kermit is the hen mother who's trying to keep everyone together, keep all the kids in line, But we make him a frog, we make one a pig, we make one a bear, we make one a weird creature, we make Gonzo an alien. You just add another level to it and it's going to get more kids interested. I love it so much. Oh, I love it. Because I just said it too. Let's talk a bit about Kermit the Frog. Kermit the Frog is, and this is going to be a weird comparison, he should be up on the pedestal with people like Optimus Prime, Leonardo, He-Man, Lion-O. He should be on that pedestal because of the shit he has to balance in his troupe. Like, it's amazing. Kermit's the mom to these guys. I know I just said that, but Kermit is the mom who's trying to keep all the kids in order as he's figuring out how to go about the day. And I think that's a very important relationship to have there. And, you know, everyone else there, too. They're just a little different people. Fozzie's the uncle. He's always trying to impress everyone, be the cool guy. Hey, waka waka. Like, he's that guy, and it's really fun to see. Gonzo's the child, constantly wanting to outdo everyone. He's got to do the best stunt. He's got to do the best prank. He's got to do all the funnest stuff out there. That's really impressive. They feel like a family, which is something I think is very important because as opposed to Sesame Street, everyone, you don't really get into where they're living. You know, Elmo's got his own parents. Bert and Ernie live on their own. We don't touch on a lot of other stuff. But here it's like these people have been doing this show for a long time. They're friends and they're family. And I think one of the best ways you can look at it is Kermit and Fozzie have one of the best friendships in all of movies because it's just like that. These two meet, they understand each other. Oh, I want to be rich and famous. I want to help people, you know, just have fun. I want to tell jokes. Okay, let's help each other out. Let's have a good time. And they're just a really close friends. I think that's very important stuff, and I love seeing that a lot. And, I mean, we could talk about Miss Piggy and how much of an icon she is, but it goes without saying, Miss Piggy is a goddamn icon. I love, like, that character of Miss Piggy is just so cliched, but it works so well. I mean, it's perfect. Because all these characters, they are timeless. And seriously, if you are someone who refuses to endure the genius of this puppetry, you gotta watch some of these classic clips on YouTube because they are well worth it. There is so much humor and comedy just in this show. It goes to so many great places, and it teaches you a lot of weird stuff, man. It's not just slapstick and off-the-wall stuff. We're talking like, I think that didn't Alice Cooper come on and like, you know, he worships the devil, Fozzie. It's like, what? Or something like that. Like, it's weird. But every celebrity was on this show. Everyone loved the Muppets. And then they faded into obscurity for a long time, which really sucks. It really does suck because I love the Muppets, man. They are so cool. Oh my goodness, man. I do love them. They're really fun. So, who are my favorite Muppets? This is a really fun topic. It's Kermit the Frog, right? I love Kermit the Frog. He's definitely in my top 3. Just the way he sometimes just holds himself back from just getting really angry, I think is a very enduring trait of that character and something that makes him on the pedestal of an Optimus Prime. I love Sam Eagle. I just think his OCD, for a lack of a better term, is just so interesting and so funny. I love it to death. And let's talk my favorite Muppet. The one guy I related to more than any Muppet. He is the guy, he's just calm, he's relaxed, he's like, yeah, we'll get it done. You know, what's the rush, baby? Let's just chill. Not that blues or jazzy, but he does play the piano. It's Rolf the dog. And I think this is the guy that Jim Henson loved the most. This was his favorite Muppet too, which is just something that makes me like Rolf a little more because that means me and Jim Henson have something else in common. I like that a lot. It's really fun. Rolf is so cool. I love Rolf. Like this guy is just really interesting. And the dog, we'll talk about here. One of my favorite movies of all time, actually. It's probably in my top 15 movies ever made. Is the original Muppet movie from the 70s. It is the perfect balance of the cast and the celebrity appearances that makes it fantastic. And it's got one of my favorite songs of all time in it, I Hope Something Better Comes Along, which is sung by Rolf the dog and Kermit the Frog. And it's just this idea of like, these puppets, they are love struck and they're thinking about the struggles of love. It's beautiful. It's definitely something everyone should look up. You just go to YouTube, you go, I Hope Something Better Comes Along, Muppets. It's really fun. And it's really cool stuff, so everyone should check that out. And we could probably do an episode just talking about the Muppets, and maybe at some point we will. Maybe we'll do like the best Muppet movie at some point. That could be a really fun topic. Maybe I'll get somebody on who doesn't know anything about Muppets and ask them. That could be really cool too. But before that, we are moving on to Fraggle Rock, and we'll just get into it, okay? Fraggle Rock is a healthy balance of both Muppets and Sesame Street. This, to me, is where we see the weird and wacky ideas start to shine on television, because, like, they live in a wall, and they don't really do anything all day. They're kind of like hippies, and I guess the workers are the dozers all around them. Who comes up with that? That's weird. That's just some weird stuff that Jim's making there. And this one, it's I think out of all these three, of Sesame Street, the Muppets, and Fraggle Rock, the Fraggle Rock is the least popular. It's the one I think a lot of people know the least about, but it's not my favorite either. I will be the first person to say that I think the concept works a little better than the way it was made, and it's a fine program. Like, it's decent enough where I think a lot of people will enjoy themselves while they're watching it. And I even now I'm still watching some of those episodes, like, because they're on Amazon Prime. I know that Apple I think they took the property and then they relaunched it. I haven't watched any of that yet, but it's fine. Like, I think out of all of these, it's the one I like the least, but I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm not saying that as a negative, because I still really love this show. I think it's really fun. Sometimes it feels lackluster, but I'd still put it above some of the other kid content. It's still very interesting. It's the easiest one to be forgotten, but the characters are really bright. Just following the adventures of Gobo and Red and Wembley and Boober and Moki, I think they're really fun. They look really cool. I get all the merchandise when I can find something cool of the Fraggles because they're that compelling. They're just the one that isn't really being updated in the modern times. I know Apple just did it, but not really anybody's talking about it. And I will say this, I love the way Sprocket looks. Oh my goodness, Sprocket looks amazing. Like, just seeing the way that dog is, he's incredibly cute. I just want to hold him. I just want to hold that dog and pet him and have a good time with that dog. The dog's adorable. Absolutely gorgeous puppy. Really fun stuff. I'm very cool with that dog. Like, it looks really cute. And Uncle Travelin' Matt's a fun addition. There's a Fraggle in a man's world and nobody's questioning that shit. Hey, whatever you want to do, man, that's you. You do you, Uncle Travelin' Matt. That's really creative. And when we come back from this break, we are going to jump into two. I'm going to quote two because there's obviously a lot more that he's worked on, but two movies that I think have influenced a lot of people going forward. So let's take that break. Alright, we talked about some of the stuff that's more aimed for kids. Let's talk about the stuff that I would never show my kid until they're older. And that first one we're going to be talking about is The Dark Crystal. Now, this movie feels like Jim Henson saying, you know what? I could make a fantasy movie too. You got your Star Wars going on out here? Yeah, I could do one of those. Of course I can. And holy crap, are the ideas and narrative of this thing incredible. Not to mention how amazing the creatures designs are for the Gelflings and the Mystics and the Podlings and the Skeksis. The plot alone is insane, but it works really well, and I think it's really endearing and really fun. Not a lot of people are going to watch it. That's the problem with this movie. It's just a little too bizarre for the average man. It's scary for kids. I do think a lot of kids are going to find this one to be the scariest thing that Jim's made. It's just really dark and kind of foreboding at times, but if you are a fan of that kind of stuff and you like films as much as I do and you just want to have a good time with something, I enjoy this movie, and I really do like every second of it. It hit me at the right time where I wasn't scared of the visuals. Like, I didn't watch this one when I was younger. I think I watched it the first time maybe when I was 16, so a few years ago, and it hit me in the right way, because I think if you just want to see something that Jim Henson made that's like, I can do this too. I can be a Spielberg. I can be a Coppola. I can be one of those guys that is making stuff that's really interesting and cool. It does a good job. It's not as, like, I don't know how to say this. It's not as, like, I guess, marketable as a Star Wars or a Jaws, but it's up there with something I think has a great cult following, and it's really important for the history of this guy going forward, man. Like, it's really fun stuff. The Skeksis are terrifying looking, and the Chamberlain looks awful, but I'm amazed we got that kind of a story from this guy where he's kind of going about betraying everyone and being loyal to certain people, not sure where he lies in terms of the Skeksis, which I think is pretty interesting stuff to see, especially in this era when we'd easily just kind of make everyone bad. There's a really cool story about peace and love in here, man, and it's really cool stuff. I love it a lot. I really like this movie. And I want to talk about it a little bit here after we get through certain things, but we'll just talk about it now, okay? I love the Age of Resistance series more than this, just because we are now at a time where we had the money and we had the money to do it. We had the right people interested in doing it, and we were able to take this narrative in a completely new direction that I don't think a lot of people were expecting this to be as good as it was. We had a stellar voice cast. We had 10 episodes of pure fantasy. We were able to influence CGI when we needed to. But it also still feels like something that Jim Henson would have worked on. The characters are still the same. We take some of these ideas and we make more stories with them. We take the idea of the Gelflings and we make there to be different tribes of Gelfling, and some live in the ground, some live in the sand, and all that stuff. We have this idea that there is a mystic and a Skeksis that live together in harmony, and they're just kind of living their lives that way. This seems like something Jim Henson would have loved, and if he was alive today, he would have made this property. I think we would have got this property sooner than later in a reboot like that, but I still think it's really good stuff. And, you know, I hate to say it, but it is, I think, a little better than the original movie. And I don't hate the original movie. I really do like it. But you take the characters of Jen and Kira from the first movie, they don't hold up as well as, like, Ren and Deet. They're just not as interesting because we were able to flesh them out a little more, which I think you have to take that into account too. Aside from the puppetry and all that, there's a really good fantasy element here, and Jim Henson really crafted a compelling narrative and a compelling universe, because it's like we have a crystal that split the Skeksis and the Mystics into two, and we got the Gelfling who are incapable of going beyond that, and all that great stuff. There's a huge, cool fantasy element in this movie that's really fun to see. And it's just weird too, which is really cool stuff. I really do love it. And I wish that Netflix series too was on more people's radar, because this is Jim Henson saying, I can make fantasy, I can do some weird stuff, not everyone's going to like it, but hell, if the people that like it enjoy it, that's enough for me. And I think that's a really cool sentiment and a really cool thing that he can say about a property he's worked on. Not a lot of creators could say that. You know, not a lot of creators could be like, I spent my own money on something like this and everyone didn't like it. But having that cult following really helps it. And I think the Netflix show is going to bring it back to prominence, and I hope we get a season 2 of that show. And then we are going to jump into the next movie he's worked on, which is in the vein of The Dark Crystal. We're talking about Labyrinth. Just like The Dark Crystal, this one is unique, it's colorful, it's full of rich and interesting characters. I really enjoy this. I really enjoy this movie a lot. For my own personal taste, someone who is a big fan of musicals and just loves the atmosphere that this movie brings to it, I enjoy it more than The Dark Crystal. I think this is... I don't want to say top 15. I don't want to say top 15 movies. Maybe top 20. It might be right there between 16 and 20 for me as some of my favorite movies of all time. We got to talk about David Bowie in this, because oh my God, this guy, he's on a whole other level of existence when he's doing this movie. His actions are so hypnotic, and when he's moving around, everything he's doing is so infectious and beautiful. And his costume, oh my goodness, his costume as the Goblin King is incredible. His suits are infectious, they are gorgeous, they are colorful, they are vibrant. I love every second of it. And just the blatant obvious nature that he has a bulge sticking out there, man. You can see the Bowie bulge, and it's amazing. What a beautiful bulge. I didn't think I'd bring that bulge up, but I don't know, I guess I'm just looking at a picture here and I'm like, there's a man's penis behind those trousers. That's a weird thing to say, but hey, it's cool. And the story is very cool, and the idea of an actual labyrinth shows that Henson loves his fantasy stories. I mean, the labyrinth is steeped in Greek mythology and that lore, so there's obviously something there to be designed, and just taking that idea and running with it in your own direction, taking Jennifer Connelly and having her need to find her baby brother while going through this traumatic experience of finding these different characters like Hobble and Sir Viticus and Ludo, and just doing all these different stuff while meeting these amazing creations. There's something really cool about that. Something really cool about that story, and it's just really fun. And the creature designs here, they're unparalleled. There's nothing in the world like a Jim Henson creation. Like, even just the puppets. There's nothing like seeing something he's created, especially like the Skeksis or Ludo or even the Muppets, like Animal. There's nothing like Animal. He just knows how to make these amazing creatures and these great creations, and everything they do is amazing and unique. Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal amplify Jim Henson as a director, and I wish we got to see more from him just in terms of like his wacky ideas. I know he passed away in 1990, but could you imagine what Jim Henson could have created using his puppetry and his animatronics, and then seeing the technology we have today, where his mind would have went, the creative genius that could have came from that? I think there would be something really compelling and really unique in that sediment, and I'd be very excited to see what that was. There's a lot more he's worked on. He's done a lot of Muppet movies. He's done some Sesame Street movies. Like I said, he worked on Ninja Turtle. He did the Storyteller there for a bit, which is fine. I don't think it was worth talking about because it's just kind of forgotten. The guy's made a lot. And I think these are the 5 most important things he's worked on, because they each give us something to think about and to ponder. And a lot of it, too, I think, has to do with this idea of connection, which I think is very important, because the Fraggles have each other, the Muppets have each other. Sesame Street's about connecting youth and bringing them together. And look at the Dark Crystal, the Skeksis and the Mystics. They literally have to come together to be at peace. And Labyrinth is about finding your sibling. It's very important stuff there. And I guess we'll end our little discussion about this by saying Jim Henson is about 2 main things, in my opinion. Creativity, taking your ideas and running with them as far as you can go. You have an idea, 2 being separate and destroys a planet, run with that. You're losing your baby brother, you have to go through a maze, run with that. You want to start an improv troupe with a bunch of puppets, run with that. He's about creativity and exploring your creativity in these different angles, and I think they're very important. And he's about puppetry. The man loved his puppets. Come on, like, puppets are cool. They're cool. If you don't like a puppet, I don't like you. Like, they're really important stuff. And they're fun. And both are played up for all ages and can do amazing things. Like Sesame Street, yes, it may be more for kids, but an adult can still have fun with some of the stuff happening in there. Muppets is really cool. The Kermit and Miss Piggy relationship is very timeless. Very every couple in the world. So have fun with that, I am beyond excited that I got to live in a world where Jim Henson got to flourish and he got to create these things. Because, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, they've all impacted me. I can still think of moments in the Muppet movie where I'm like, that's really cool. That friendship's something I want to write. That moment's something I want to write. Just having that dynamic. I can still think of every time I watch The Dark Crystal or watch Labyrinth, and I'm like, this is really cool. I hope I can make something like this someday, where I'm taking this unique idea that I have in this fantastical elemental world and just be able to explore my genius and my thoughts in that way. And seeing something like this happen. And I compared him to guys like Bob Ross, who is this fantastic painter, and it's all about the world around you, just making those beautiful paintings. And Fred Rogers, who's about loving people and taking the time to talk about things. And Steve Irwin, who's about caring for animals. Jim Henson's about that too, but it's more like, you have ideas in your head. You have ideas you love. You have something you've wanted to make. You should make it. You should explore it. It could be as simple as teaching kids the ABCs in a creative way. It could be as simple as singing a song on stage with a frog and a pig. But you should be allowed to explore your ideas, because they are important ideas and they are very fun. So, like I said, I will have a link for you to donate to the Jim Henson Foundation if you guys want to send them some money. I think it's very important stuff. And it gets us more things like this, right? And I want more stuff like this, because this stuff is really fun and important. We need more stuff like the Muppets And we need more stuff like the Dark Crystal. And I'm so glad we got a bunch of that stuff. Alright guys, we are about to end our show. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. And if you have any recommendations for what you want to see me talk about on this show, or you have any ideas that you'd like to see me talk about, it could be about any topic in the geek culture or in popular culture even. Email me. My email will be in the description below. If you have an idea, use the subject line GeekWave suggestion, and I will look into it and see if we can find a time to fit that in. And as always, we like to end the show with giving you a couple of recommendations for things you should check out. Obviously, I think you should just go to YouTube and look up some Muppet clips from that old show, but watch the original Muppet movie from the 70s. It's really fun. It shows you the origin story of the Muppets. There's some great cameos in there from some really fun celebrities, and it's really cool stuff to see. And you guys should check out Dark Crystal, Age of Extinction, because I just did the Transformers one. You should check out Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance, because it's really cool stuff. It's taken the idea of Dark Crystal and running with it in a beautiful and creative direction that a lot of people are going to enjoy. You will enjoy it, I promise you. And of course, you can watch the first season of Perry Mason, which is on HBO now. It's coming to its end soon. I think there's a couple episodes left. Might as well do that. And because we talked about Tom King for a little bit, maybe check out Strange Adventures. It's a pretty interesting story. It's a little more political than I was expecting, but it's going to get you a lot of good feelings about what Tom King is as a writer and a creator. So, really good stuff there. I love talking about this one with you guys. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know. And you can let me know by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And as always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. Patreon will have this up early, and you can see exclusive content on Patreon. So if you guys want to do that, you can do that. Absolutely. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck. Rock on.